Hey, Daily Dosers. There's something about my kids that they really love. They love to make origami. Origami is that Japanese tradition of taking a square piece of paper and folding crazy things into different shapes, 3D objects. And when my kids were younger, I thought it would be fun to teach them how to fold origami by giving them some books. So we went to the library, we checked out a huge stack of books, and I figured that would last them days. They could go page through these books. I bought them a stack of origami paper and figured that would be entertainment enough. And I can remember that our oldest son, Lars, he figured it out pretty easily. He could read the book and he could figure out which dotted line meant to do a valley fold versus a mountain fold. But our youngest son, Yoren, didn't really get into it. It was a little bit too confusing for him at that time. And I kind of agreed with him. No matter how many times I read a description, I couldn't figure out what to do. But then, not long after that, we figured out that YouTube could teach origami. The internet can teach us anything, right? So we figured as parents that even if our kids were watching something on a screen, they were doing something educational, right? But it was really amazing to see the way that someone showing our son how to make origami could teach him more easily. He could watch somebody do it, he could see how they were folding the paper, and he could make these incredible creations and remember them. It stuck when someone showed him how to do this. And I bet you can all think about times when there was someone who showed you how to do something that was more effective than people telling you or writing it down for you. All of you teachers out there, you're saying, yes, this is my life. This is what I've been trying to tell everybody and show all my students for years. When I show them how to do something, it sticks. Or maybe you work in the manufacturing industry and you're saying, yes, that's right. We need other people, other employees to show a new employee how to run our machines. So today I want to ask you, what would it mean if we showed God's love to those around us? We've been talking a lot in the Daily Dose recently about God's huge love, the way God's love shows up in our lives in lots of different ways. And we've done this because God's love is so huge. It's deep, it's intricate. And God sent Jesus, God's only Son, to us and for us. And if God shows such unconditional, such unending love, why wouldn't we want to share it with other people around us? How could we, rather than just tell people about God's love, show it to them? In the Bible, in the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, verse 2, we read this: "Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love." In another version of the Bible, I read it this way: "Always be humble and gentle. Be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of love." Maybe you could show God's love to your friend by simply listening to them. Sit down with a cup of coffee and ask, "How are you?" And don't settle for the answer, "I'm fine." If God is open to listening to everything that we bring to God, then our ability to listen with an open mind and heart shows God's love to someone else. Or maybe you could show God's love by being generous. You could be generous with your time by volunteering at a school or another nonprofit in town that you care about. You could be generous with your money at a place you'd like to support. If everything we've received is a gift from God, how can we give and be generous to others to show God's love? Or for you, maybe you could show God's love by showing up for someone. Attend your grandkids' concert and your community play that your neighbor is acting in. Let them see your smiling face and know that you're a little more connected to them. God shows up for us when we're sad, but also when we are filled with joy. So let's be there to show up and show love to other people. These acts of listening or being generous or showing up, they don't somehow magically let God love us more. They do, however, in those actions, small or large, they do show God's love for someone in a moment they need it most, or in a moment they didn't even know they needed it. Then it's one more way that God's deep, God's holy, God's radical love can be shared with the world. So how will you show God's love for someone today? We'd love to hear about it. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, let us know in the comments, or share this with someone else. Send them a text right now and let them know that you are ready to show God's love. Thanks so much.